orders in the express?
Transfer £1.
£1.
Cruise P&O European ferries to France for just £1 with this week's Daily Express. We're expecting plenty of reservations.
Lockets, the effective double-action lozenge with penetrating menthol and a strong, soothing liquid centre. Lockets help clear your nose and soothe your throat.
The Corgi originally was a cattle dog. We've actually bred 7 champions. And I think feeding's probably the key to everything. They've always enjoyed pedigree chum. The dogs have always loved it, but one of them found it too rich. We tried the improved recipe and his tummy was much better. It's definitely more digestible. He actually wolfs it down. He's put on body and coat and condition and he's a happier dog. I would certainly recommend new improved recipe pedigree chum. I think it's the best.
That's a hell of a spider in there, mate.
Yeah, I've seen it.
Question is, what drongo's going to be stupid enough to go in and flush it out?
Anyone tell me where the toilet is, please?
The dunny's 50 yards down on your right.
Thanks.
Should have let him in on it, Bill.
Nah, you'll find out soon enough.
He drinks Carling Black Label.
Carling what?
Carling Black Label. It's a pommy lager. Brewed at 4.1% for a fuller flavour. And because it's the #1 selling lager over there, you're never likely to get a sniff of it over here.
This could have given you a nasty blockage. It's quiet now, isn't it?
Carling. No wonder it's #1.
If you receive some Reader's Digest prize draw numbers, return them immediately, because someone somewhere is going to win £210,000.
This is Meridian Tonight with Andy Craig and Mai Davies.
Police investigate the death of a Surrey woman.
It's standing room only as BR prices rise. You can see we're in the guardsman today because we can't sit down in the main carriages. It's just a very poor quality service.
And the alternative way to lose weight. Hello, good evening and welcome to Meridian Tonight. Our top story this evening, the charred body of a woman found at a Hampshire beauty spot has been identified.
She was 25-year-old Angela Stewart, a young married mother who lived in a village across the Surrey border. A man has been arrested and is helping police with their inquiries. Lisa Hazelhurst sends us this report.
Angela Stewart lived here with her husband and their baby daughter. Today the house remained cordoned off. Neighbours say she was a quiet woman who only moved to the new housing estate in Recklesham last August. She was reported missing yesterday. She was later found murdered at a local beauty spot. Her body was found by a couple taking a quiet afternoon stroll. Within minutes, the area was sealed off and a murder investigation was launched. Her body was virtually naked and wrapped in plastic sheeting. A post-mortem examination revealed Angela died from head injuries and her body had been set alight. Alice Holt Forest at Buckshorn Oak is in Hampshire but close to the Surrey border, and both police forces have been investigating the case.
The victim was Angela Stewart, who was 25, from the Recklesham area near Farnham. She was last seen by her husband at about 4 o'clock on Sunday morning. She allegedly left home to go for a walk.
Detectives are still appealing for witnesses. People are urged to contact their local police station. Lisa Hazelhurst in Alice Holt Forest for Meridian Tonight.
The region's rail commuters went back to work today facing the biggest ever increase in fares. Some will go up by 9%, almost 3 times the rate of inflation. The price rises affect more than 100,000 people in our region. But it's all good news for the coach companies. As Mike Pearce reports, passengers are deserting British Rail in their hundreds.
It's a New Year present the region's commuters could well do without. Rises of between 7 and 9% mean many are now paying more than £2,000 a year to get to work. Farnham has the highest percentage of season ticket holders in the network southeast area. This morning, the town's commuters were far from happy.
I certainly don't think we're getting value for money squeezed in like this. It's like a cattle truck. I'm not too happy about the fares rise, obviously.
What do you think needs to be done then? How could the service be improved?
Well, a lot more carriages could be added on for a start to give people room to breathe.
We're very crowded. The service isn't always reliable. The carriages aren't always clean. You just don't get what you pay for.
By the time we reached Woking, it was standing room only. Some passengers say it's rare to get a seat.
With the carriages jammed full, many take refuge in the guards van. They say it's a much more comfortable way to travel. For the privilege, they have to pay £2,000 a year.
Fare increases don't seem to improve the quality of the service. There's a greater cramping of it. As you can see, we're in the guards van today because we can't sit down in the main carriages. It's just a very poor quality service.
With scenes like this now common and fares so high, Meridian Tonight has discovered that some passengers are deserting BR for the commuter coach. In Reading, many of these people used to travel by train. While BR have seen passenger numbers drop by 20% due to the recession, Reading buses are now carrying a record 8,000 passengers into London every week.
Now, you've recently started using the coach. What do you think the benefits are?
Very comfortable, 90% more reliable than British Rail, 50% less expensive than British Rail. Generally, just a good service. At least I can be assured I shall be in work, on the day I set off.
Heavy traffic means coach journeys take longer, but for these commuters, BR have priced themselves out of the market.
Well, you join me tonight from a very busy Waterloo. With me is Peter Field from Network South East. Just how do you justify fare rises of this magnitude?
Well, I regret this is an unavoidable consequence of the recession. We have lost a great deal of our income. We've not only loss of business, but loss of the income from the property market. Our costs are amongst the lowest in Europe in terms of productivity, and we're reducing them even more by announcing 5,000 redundancies across British Rail. But unfortunately, we must meet the gap, must bridge the gap. There's no other money.
But you've got commuters paying £2,000 to travel in guards vans. Surely that's just not good enough.
I think that the example you quote is an exception. The vast majority, overwhelming majority of our customers are provided with seats, particularly on the long distance journeys. It is our obligation in the Passengers Charter to provide those seats. But yes, our fares are the highest in Europe.
The Transport Secretary John McGregor is tonight expected to give the full privatisation of British Rail the go-ahead. Is really that the answer?
I think it depends on the cost of providing the access to the passenger network. If the cost quoted by government for a private franchise to run a train is low, then the cost of running trains and the cost of the fares will be low. But if they're as high as they are now, they'll be just as high as they will be in the future.
Finally, what improvements in services can we expect over this year then?
A tremendous improvement. We have a completion of a £46 billion investment programme for the West of England line, new trains, 22 new trains arriving for the Waterloo, Basingstoke, Exeter services, and the new trains for the bank to the Waterloo, the drain.
Peter Field, thank you very much indeed for joining us tonight. I now hand you back to the studio in Newbury. A memorial service has been held in Kenya for Sean Devereux, the Hampshire man killed by gunmen in Somalia. 28-year-old Sean from Yateley near Camberley was shot dead 2 days ago in the town of Kismayo, where he'd been working for UNICEF, the United Nations Children's Fund.
Well, as we bring you the very first Meridian Tonight, we'd like to take the chance to introduce ourselves properly. We'll be here every night, Monday to Friday at 6 o'clock.
And in addition to the show based here in Newbury, we have sister programmes in Southampton and in Maidstone. And now to explain why we're called Meridian, we need that explanation. Here's Hannah O'Sullivan.
To get a clearer view of how the Meridian Broadcasting Company got its name, we're here in Greenwich, home of the prime meridian of the world. This is the Meridian Line. At this point, it measures 0 degrees longitude, and it's the centre of the world's time zones. It cuts through the heart of Meridian's broadcasting region.
Well, I hope the name, in a sense, leads to what we hope to bring. We hope that the name and the logo is bright, friendly, accessible, and we hope that's what we're going to be. We hope we're going to be a station that reflects what viewers want to see on ITV, that listens to what viewers tell us, and that provides a terrific service for viewers in the south and southeast.
Meridian has divided the south into 3 areas with separate news services in Maidstone, Southampton and Newbury. There are reporters and crews at 7 other sites. Fronting Meridian Tonight in Southampton are Fred Dinage and Debbie Thrower. In Maidstone, Mike Debbins and Alison Holloway co-present the show. And in Newbury, Meridian Tonight for the Thames Valley and North Hampshire is presented, as you know, by Andy Craig and Mai Davies. This summer, the £3 million Newbury News Centre underlined Meridian's commitment to local news. The shell of a run-down warehouse was transformed using the latest studio and newsroom technology. After a year of planning and sheer hard graft, it's finally all systems go. But there is one other definition of meridian. In the dictionary, in between merger and meringue, it is, quote, a high point, especially of success or greatness. Watch this space. Hannah O'Sullivan on the Meridian Line in Greenwich for Meridian Tonight.
Absolutely, watch this space. And as we're going to be here every day, we do hope you'll join us, because we'll be awfully lonely without you.
Absolutely. We've got some of the best facilities I've ever worked with before, and the furniture's not bad either, is it? It's very nice indeed. Well, I'll tell you what, while we get our feet under the table, we'll take a short break. In a moment, we'll be up, up and away in Britain's biggest balloon flight. It's Berkshire as you've literally never seen it before.
What's the answer to too much Christmas? Good old yellow pages.
Now, at the MFI sale, Britain's lowest prices guaranteed on over 60 quality divans and 3-piece suites in over 80 styles. The MFI sale now on.
The block knows I'm completely stuffed without Hall's mentholyptus, as well as soothing eucalyptus. They've got a fantastic menthol vapor action. Just allow one to dissolve slowly in your mouth. And it'll breeze through your nose block in no time. They're available in 4 flavors, all with fantastic vapor action. Watch out for the extra strong ones.
Nuts. Every nut in town wants to be a new Kellogg's Nut Feast. But do they have taste, I ask?
There's a lot of hopeful nuts still out there, Mr. G.
And who can blame them? This is going to be a big hit.
Casting.
Kellogg's have cracked it. New Kellogg's Nut Feast is a great-tasting nutty cereal. Crisp wheat flakes mingled with crunchy clusters of peanuts, hazelnuts, and almonds.
I'm looking for nuts that have taste and maybe a touch of class.
New Kellogg's Nut Feast. All the nuts with all the taste.
We can certainly give you a great deal on a flight to the sun. Only let us arrange it this time, Mr. Icarus.
Thank you. I was wondering...
Oh, hello.
Good evening, sir.
I thought you'd retired. No, I felt a bit peckish.
Ah, perhaps a Kingsmill sandwich.
Yeah, why not?
Honey roast ham and mustard.
Oh, no.
A rare beef and horseradish.
Well, I didn't
Oven-baked the traditional way, using only top-grade flour, Kingsmill is Britain's favourite premium loaf.
Smoked turkey and green salad.
How about cheese and pickle?
Yes, I can heartily recommend it, sir.
Kingsmill, the loaf that's better bread.
Every time you turn on a light, or turn the heating up at night, when you boil a kettle for tea, or run a bath, you use energy. CO2 gas escapes into the air and makes a greenhouse way up there. Not all of the heat that builds up can get out, and that's what global warming is all about. When I'm Daddy's age or thereabouts, some places could start having storms and droughts. The sea might rise and animals die. We'll all be sad, but it will be too late to cry.
Hello and welcome back. Well, here on Meridian Tonight, as well as comprehensive coverage of the day's news, we'll be taking an in-depth look at subjects which affect us all. This week, our reporter Sonia Legg is investigating the diet industry, just for those of us who made a New Year's resolution to lose weight. Her first report looks at the lengths some slimmers will go to as they search for the perfect body shape.
This is what Jeff Ferris had for his Christmas dinner, a banana milkshake drunk with a straw. Jeff's jaws have been wired together by a dentist to help him lose weight. He's been unable to open his mouth for almost 2 months and lives entirely on liquid food and vitamins. So far he's lost 3 stones, but it hasn't been easy.
I'm not getting the real hunger pains that I was getting the first 2 weeks. I just sort of fancy food sometimes when I'm preparing something for someone else. You know, I'd very much love to take a bite of it.
Jeff asked to have this rather extreme form of treatment after every other slimming method failed. 3 years ago he also lost his job. He's been unemployed since then and simply can't afford to pay for slimming clubs or special foods. He hopes being slim will help him get a job.
I hope to get down to under 12 stone, and I think I'll feel a lot more confident, a lot better about myself. You know, I haven't got a lot of confidence, and some of that is obviously to do with the way I look.
The National Health Service paid for his operation after he badgered his doctors to let him try it. They're generally reluctant to prescribe such drastic treatment. Some people would say perhaps that it is a rather extreme thing to do. Would you recommend that other people try this, or is it something that just suits you in particular?
No, I think a lot of other people could do it, because I've got the sort of temperament that can put up with things that I can't alter, or that I feel that I can't alter. So, I don't know, maybe it's a bit easier for me in that way. But I think other people could benefit from it who haven't lost weight in other ways.
Jeff's rather extreme method of dieting isn't the only unusual way to slim. You could always have your stomach stapled, and of course there's cosmetic surgery for those of you with plenty of cash. But as well as modern medical treatments, some people say you can also slim using a rather more ancient form of treatment.
Present the needle, tension the skin, okay, insert the needle, okay, and just push it in, alright? That's all there is to it.
Acupuncture has been used for medical purposes for centuries, but in the past few years its value as a slimming aid has been recognised.
Basically it works on the fact that it really increases your willpower to lose weight, and also it stimulates a feeling of well-being, and generally improves your metabolism. An increase in metabolism is one way of stimulating a weight loss.
Chris Wilshire has lost 8 pounds in the 4 weeks she's been having the treatment. She's convinced it's not a coincidence.
I've always had a weight problem. I've lost weight in the past, and within a few months I've always put it back on again, purely because I can't curb my appetite. I comfort eat. Since I've been having acupuncture, my appetite has reduced, and I'm probably eating normally, like most other people do, instead of eating a lot when I'm depressed.
Graham claims almost anyone can benefit from acupuncture, and he insists watching the needles being inserted is more painful than actually having the treatment.
It's certainly not unpleasant by any means. I find it very hard to relax normally, and when Graham leaves me 20 minutes with the needles in, I feel as if I'm floating on cloud 9.
That's not quite the way Chrissy Wooden described this equally unusual way to lose inches. She's having ionothermy, a treatment which involves wrapping the body in clay and sending electricity waves into the fatty areas.
It feels like someone's actually lifting my muscles up and dropping them again. Is it painful at all? Not at all, no. It's quite nice, actually.
And now, getting a contraction.
quite comfortable when you get used to it.
Ionothermy or body wrap is designed to make you slim for very short periods of time. Staff here claim it has 4 main effects. Breaks down cellulite, gets rid of retained water, improves muscle tone and improves the texture of the skin. But the main reason people pay £35 for one session is the inch loss.
I've got a friend's party coming up and the dress that I've had is slightly too tight on the hips and the tummy. It's a bit uncomfortable, so I thought by slimming down a little bit it would be easier to wear it.
And you chose this instead of old-fashioned dieting?
Well, although I've dieted, I find I have to exercise for a long time beforehand to actually tone up, whereas this is like the quick, easy way.
Unfortunately, most people who have ionothermy return to their original size within a few weeks. But that's a danger with many forms of dieting. Even Jeff Ferris is scared he'll return to his old habits once his jaw wires are removed in a few months' time. He's just hoping the memory of his suffering now will keep him on the straight and narrow. Sonia Legg, Meridian Tonight.
Well, I'm joined now by Lindell Costain, the district dietitian based at the Royal Berkshire Hospital. Lindell, these methods look awfully extreme. Do they actually work?
Well, it's very difficult to say whether or not they all work, and certainly they are extreme. The jaw wiring one that we saw in the first instance is one I could probably comment best of all. It's something that should only be done under strict medical supervision because there is such a danger of the person becoming inadequately nourished because you're on such a restricted diet. It also should only be really used for people who are quite overweight, quite obese, and whose weight actually does affect their health in a dangerous way. And finally, really for people who actually have tried just about every other more conventional method and who've been through a proper assessment procedure to make sure that this won't be detrimental towards them.
You've said these are dangerous. Are any of the others dangerous? Because you've said about nutrition that you might not get as much nutrition as you need. That's obviously a danger when people are dieting, that they don't get what they need.
That's right, and it's a very, very big problem with crash dieting, short-term dieting, which rely very much on strict methods which use very few foods, perhaps gimmicky combinations, and don't look at nutrition as the main message to get across. Even some of the calorie-controlled diets can be too low in food just to get everything that you do need. Certainly some of the, for example, the acupuncture didn't actually mention food, so I'm not too sure what role that has to play, because certainly your weight is very much controlled by the exercise that you do and what you actually put into your body in terms of the energy that you put in.
Lindell, thank you very much for joining us. Now it's back over to Andy, who's never going to have his jaws wired, I don't think.
No, actually, I seem to hide my weight problem very well indeed, but there you go. Now it's time for our regular sports slots. In the coming months, we'll bring you all the news from your local team, whatever they might play. Plenty of racing tips too, we hope, and a few winners. But first tonight, after Reading's performance in the FA Cup, Chris Morn kicks off with football. What a weekend, Chris.
Yes, absolutely right, Andy. A draw at Manchester City has landed Reading a lucrative replay next week. Elm Park expects a capacity crowd of more than 13,000. And in the fourth round, the winners will face either Queen's Park Rangers or Swindon, who play this evening. Oxford are also in the fourth round draw. They'll be at home to Grimsby if they can get past Swansea. But Southampton and non-league Marlow are both out of the Cup. Shelley Webb has the details, beginning with Southampton's defeat at Nottingham Forest.
Southampton started well at the City Ground. Matthew Letizier's close-range header gave them a 15th-minute lead. But the tide turned in the 2 minutes before half-time. Roy Keane's powerful header made it one apiece. And Neil Webb's first goal since returning to Forest put Saints out of the Cup. The final score, Nottingham Forest 2, Southampton 1. Marlow Town supporters were out in force for the biggest day in their club's history. 3,000 made the journey to North London, where the Deodora League side met Spurs. The dream that Marlow might cause the most outrageous shock in Cup history lasted just 20 minutes, when Teddy Sheringham gave Spurs the lead. The Premier League side scored 2 more before Marlow skipper David Lay realised his personal dream by scoring at White Hart Lane. And it made it a day to remember for the Marlow supporters, though Spurs cruised to a 5-1 victory. Shelley Webb at White Hart Lane for Meridian Tonight.
Well, Newbury's first race meeting of the year has ended in tragedy for one famous family. A horse owned by Sir Andrew Lloyd Webber's wife Madeline had to be destroyed. Al Mutam, a birthday present from the composer to his wife last month, had been leading when jockey Jamie Osborne pulled him up. Vets later discovered the horse had severed a tendon. Ice hockey and the Bracknell Bees earned a Heineken League victory over the Peterborough Pirates last night. Darren Durden scored 4 of the goals. Fellow Canadian Ross Lambert marked his return with this goal as the Bees ran out 8-4 winners. That's the sport this evening. Now it's back to Mai.
Thank you, Chris. Well, after our lovely, sunny, crisp weekend, it's been a bit dull and cold today. This was the scene at Brympton near Newbury a few hours ago. I think even the sparrows are feeling a bit chilly. Now here's Carl Tyler to tell us what we can expect tomorrow.
Quite a variety of weather. During the last 24 hours, we've had rain, sleet, snow, freezing rain, mist and fog, all because the temperatures are rising slowly but steadily. The next couple of days, on the mild side. But let's start tonight with a warning, and we're looking for fog, hill fog in particular, as we go through tonight. Our satellite picture, that shows a lot of cloud pouring in towards Ireland at the moment. Underneath that cloud, we've got the rain and we've got the frontal systems. They're moving in all towards us slowly but steadily. By noon tomorrow, the rain and the fronts right over the way at the top of us. We've got a rather wet morning, drying out slowly during the afternoon. This evening, it'll be dry, but that mist and fog forming in many, many places, particularly over the higher ground. The lowest temperatures are now at 41 degrees Fahrenheit. After midnight, it's rain spreading through the area, generally light rain, with just temperatures up to about 48 by dawn. Tomorrow morning, rather murky, outbreaks of light rain right the way through the area. There could even be the odd heavier burst, but as we get into the afternoon, that rain tending to edge off, and the Thames Valley area down into Wiltshire becoming dry. Your best temperatures tomorrow, we're looking for a very warm 11, that's 52 degrees Fahrenheit. Our picture tonight, that's got no name in the summary. Tonight, murky with some rain. Tomorrow, rain at times, some of it heavy in the morning.
Well, time now for another regular feature. Let's go over to Nick Knowles in the newsroom for the latest travel news.
Well, if you're waiting for someone to come, a loved one to come home along the M4 or along the M25, you may as well give their dinner to the dog. They're going to be a long time. I'm afraid cones have been sprouting on the M25, causing delays on the M4 where the motorways meet. It's going to get worse when the M4 works start in March. A4 not too bad, no specific delays reported. Traffic moving smoothly around Winchester. Make the most of it before the schools go back. If you're stuck in Cone City, that's the Basingstoke Ring Road, it's your own fault, you ought to know better by now. M3 fairly busy, but no specific delays. A34 Newbury, as usual, looks more like a car park than a main road. Nothing moving there. Tomorrow morning, don't go mad just because the fog's gone. It's wet and could be icy, so please take care. Railways report no delays out of Paddington Waterloo. All flights at Heathrow as normal, but who'd want to be flying out to the Caribbean when you could be bathing in the warm smiles of Andy and Mai?
You say the nicest things, Nick. Nicky Knowles there, man who knows his cones. The Berkshire sky was awash with colour this weekend as the spectacular Icicle Meet celebrated 21 years of hot air ballooning. Enthusiasts from all over the world gathered at Savernake for the two-day event, and our intrepid reporter Hannah O'Sullivan left terra firma to bring us this report.
8 o'clock on a frosty morning and the pilgrims flock to Warren Farm at Savernake near Hungerford. The frost and cold are ignored for one of the most important days in the ballooning calendar. Fog spoils the first day of the Icicle Meet, but today conditions are perfect.
It's nice because you meet friends just after Christmas and people come from all over the world to the Icicle, and I've flown a lot down in Berkshire in the very early days of ballooning, so it holds a lot of fond memories for me and some quite interesting memories, especially around this area.
Listen to that absolute silence. Well, these chariots of fire may not be the warmest way of getting around, but they certainly are the most charming way of seeing the Thames Valley. Mind you, we haven't quite landed yet.
We're just coming over the road now, just over these woods, and then there's a little road just underneath us.
Half an hour and 5 miles later, it's touchdown.
Okay, you can get out. Brilliant. Well, that was great fun. All right.
But over at the farmhouse, there's bad news for the balloonists.
That's right, yeah. No, it ain't Upper Upper. We're bloody miles from Upper Upper. Yeah. Oh, right. What's the map then?
Nobody minds. Getting lost is all part of the fun of ballooning. Hannah O'Sullivan near Savernake for Meridian Tonight.
The best way to travel. Now, finally, a recap of the main stories in the region tonight. The charred body of a woman found at a beauty spot in a forest near Farnham has been identified. She was 25-year-old Angela Stewart, a young mother who lived nearby. A man is being questioned. And the region's rail commuters went back to work today, facing the biggest ever fares increase. Some are up by 9%. The rises come as research from Meridian Tonight reveals record numbers of passengers are unhappy with British Rail.
I'll tell you what, weren't those pictures of the icicle meet absolutely magnificent? I still can't get over the colour and the light and things. That particular day, it was wonderful, wasn't it?
Wouldn't it be nice to go to work in a balloon? We wouldn't have to go by train or by
we
coach.
wouldn't need Nick Knowles with the traffic details for starters,
You
wouldn't
wouldn't
we?
be very happy.
Absolutely. Anyway, I'll tell you what, you join us again at the same time tomorrow night. Don't forget to tell your friends. A very good night to you.
Good night.
Starting tomorrow, Meridian salutes the unsung heroes of the South, the men and women of the ambulance service.
Right, nice deep breath. Good. That's the cue.
As the staff at Portsmouth, Maine deal with up to 800 calls in a month, the cameras follow the daily drama of life at the busiest ambulance station in the south of England.
Put it to your face and just breathe it in. Okay then?
I think this is more of a way of life than an actual job. Every time you go out on the road, you are taking part in somebody's life.
Ambulance starts tomorrow at 7:30 on Meridian.
Next, a film portrait of Goodwood in September in Countryways.
Whatever your circumstances, you should be with N&P.
Get out of that kitchen and shake that Worcester sauce. Well, come on and shake it on every course. I said shake jacket and cheese. I said shake tomato soup. I said shake burger and beans. I said shake pork and rice. What's that? A jack o' magic? That'll be real nice.
Liam Perrins, the Worcester Sorcerer, and now tomato ketchup with a touch of Worcester sorcery.
Would you like to improve your needlecraft? Now you can with Discovering Needlecraft, a new fortnightly publication that gives you easy-to-understand instructions which help you progress from the simplest things to the more complicated techniques. Each issue comes with instructions for 4 projects, plus all the materials you need to help you complete one. There's even a 48-hour discount mail order service for all your materials. So get Discovering Needlecraft and see what you can do with a little inspiration.
Tonight at 7, John Carter visits the tropical waters and sandy beaches of the Seychelles in Wish You Were Here. Now, Countryways continues with Meridian.
Goodwood lies folded in the South Downs, close above Chichester. The stately home of the Dukes of Richmond since 1697 and the racecourse of glorious Goodwood are justly famous. But the place is far more than these 2 man-made structures. It is the beauty of the location and the splendour of the rolling hills which make this such a special area. peasants worked the chalk soil here for centuries before the Romans arrived. As Daniel Webster wrote at the end of the 18th century, when tillage begins, other arts follow. The farmers, therefore, are the founders of human civilization. And this stretch of Sussex is nothing if not civilized. Hilaire Belloc summed it up with that centre of all good things and home of happy men, the county of Sussex. In her Sussex book, Esther Mennell writes, "The great feature of the Downs and their great distinction is that they have so few features. They are lines, curves, folds of a noble and satisfying simplicity. Their very bareness is part of their beauty and makes them unrivaled in the display of changing light and racing cloud shadows. So subtle and so constant are these changes that it is as though these hills of chalk breathed and moved gently as if in sleep." At the foot of the Downs and below Goodwood Racecourse is the Weald and Downland Open Air Museum, where much of the building, animal life and farming of ancient Sussex is beautifully recreated.
Go on, Bob.
Peter Alban, Sussex born and bred, is the horseman and stockman, and his responsibilities include Tamworth pigs, oxen, Sussex cattle, heavy horses and old-fashioned farm implements.
One of the first things I do in the mornings is to feed all the stock. I'll start off at the stables, it's the first place. I feed the horses so that they can digest their food whilst I'm feeding the other animals before I come back and put those into work. The Tamworths are a rare breed, which isn't their principal reason for being here. The principal reason is that they have long noses and they have pricked up ears, which is reminiscent of medieval pigs. Which is the reason for having the Tamworths. The young pigs are doing very well. I think 9's quite a good number for a Tamworth, and it's nice to see young ones, you know. Right. Getting them harnessed up in the morning it takes quite a long time. I mean, a lot of it is the brushing and grooming and the hoof picking, and then you start to put all the gear on. So it might take more than an hour to put the 3 horses together to get them out. In the old days, of course, people came in very early and they fed their horses 2 or 3 times. They'd get the horses out and they'd come back in at maybe 3:30 so that they didn't have to stop for dinner. But these here, I mean, we stop for dinner and put them in, or we might do cultivating in the morning and come out with a wagon in the afternoon to do some hay carting or collect the rubbish or anything that requires a cart. They're not machines, they do play around and they do give you trouble and they won't do things sometimes. But on the whole, they're used to being worked and they're waiting for your command.
Ready? Walk on. Come on. Come on.
When I started off we got Jim as a new horse. We had to first get Jim and William to work together and then get Jim and Rosie to work together. And Rosie doesn't like other horses. She really doesn't. And so it took a long time to get Jim and Rosie to work together properly. And once we achieved that, then we put them all together. And fortunately, they worked fairly well. I was born further along on the South Downs and they've become a part of my life. And this for me is a beautiful spot because I'm doing things that I love in a place that I find absolutely wonderful.
think the problem is with that valve, Lester?
Well, I think it might be just a little bit slow on playing, so if I can...
Stop the timing, didn't it?
Yeah.
On the Goodwood side of Chichester, Clive Jones, his wife Enid and son Lester run a unique toy and music museum in a converted church. Here is a treasure trove for children and grown-ups alike, full of magic and nostalgic sounds. The Jones family has even found a way to manufacture modern versions of the metal discs, which play in their ancient musical boxes.
Okay, a penny in and away. Before we decided to open the Mechanical Music and Doll collection at Chichester, I was a professional fisherman working off the south coast of England, and we mainly specialised in eels and oysters. But approximately now 12 years ago, we decided to put our lifelong hobby into a collection that could be publicly on display, and so I totally gave up fishing and concentrated then on opening and running the Mechanical Music and Doll collection in Chichester. I have collected and been interested in beautiful old things all my life. I suppose the beautiful old things could be dependent on who were looking at them, but I well remember the first thing which I found totally fascinating. I was about 11 at the time, and I went to a house sale, and I bought 4 antelope trophy heads. And I remember that at that time they were 2 and 6pence each. And that really was the start of this collection as you see it today. It doesn't matter whether it be a musical box, one of the trophy heads, one of the stuffed animal heads or birds, they all reflect that artistic work where somebody put all of their time and professionalism into it. It doesn't matter whether it be young people or old people, everybody in between. There's something about mechanical music which is magic. It makes you feel good. And even the children, they're so used to their type of music, they actually hear these nostalgic sounds and they just totally enjoy it. And the question we get asked day after day is, why not today? Where else can we go to hear such sounds? I think it's a sound that is so pure, it's a job to believe that the late Victorian families could actually go out and listen to that very pure sound. The penny they paid to hear it was certainly a lot of money at that time, and you could compare that penny with what was then a pint of beer. So when you went out, there was your choice. Another pint of beer, or put your penny in the musical box.
At 87, Arch Long from East Dean still walks into the village each week to polish the plaque on the bench there in memory of one of his grandsons who was killed in a car crash at the tender age of 18. Arch is an institution in the area, worked on the Goodwood estate, and is wise in the ways of nature, the downs, and of men and women.
I come here, you know, every year on my birthday, you know, from East England, Deal. Young, when I was younger, they used to come there. You see that gap in the trees?
Yeah,
Up there. Well, that's what they call the old owls, you know, and that. You've got to come down, it's like come down over the Alps, you know, with little footholds to put your feet in.
How many?
Well, latter years, they all think it's going to be the last one, you see. So, you know, well, 30, 35, 40, you know. Yeah.
4 generations of the Long family have worked in the woods. Arch's son Gordon is a forester and runs a nearby sawmill and woodyard, where Arch sometimes lends a hand under the beady eye of a superb Portland ram.
My father was always involved in timber throwing, you know, timber hauling, and that was the best part of my life, was working in the woods. And then Gordon's taken it up as well, and his son, you know, as well. So
Quite a family tradition.
yeah.
One of Archie's greatest pleasures is to walk the South Downs. So what was it like here 80 years ago, Arch?
Well, it's a long way to think back, you know, but it was much quieter, much slower, and you could smell the hay. There was hay meadows and hay ricks that if you were drunk and could get home, you got the loose side, you know, and that was always warm. Right.
What's special about living here?
What to me, is there a better place? I've been to quite a few places in the world, and I haven't found anything like it.
Sheltered in the noble stables at Goodwood House is John Lasseter's school, one of the prime dressage teaching establishments in the world. Charlotte Penfold is the yard manager, and she and her team are busy at all times, teaching, grooming, cleaning, exercising, and training horses, and more difficult still, trying to educate human beings. The standards are high, and the professionalism is absolute.
I like the yard to run very much as a team. We all try and muck in and muck out together. I like to join in with the preparation of the horses because I think it provides a better atmosphere, and when the chips are down, it means that people will hopefully help you if you've helped them when they're running late for the boss or whatever problem occurs. At Goodwood we have extremely good facilities for dressage with 3 arenas and an indoor school, plus the horses have the benefit of being able to go up the gallops and hack around and go out in the field.
And from the shoulder in quietly, leftly, canter.
When teaching dressage you need a lot of concentration, I think a lot more than people on the outside would realise. You need to relay to your pupil how to ride the horse. So you're basically not only watching what they're doing, but you're riding the horse yourself from the ground, and then trying to figure out how to transmit that to the rider.
Good.
In terms of temperament, the horses that are slightly less intelligent than some of the other ones are the easier ones to train, but for the top flight things you want horses with a lot of spark and personality, but then you have the problems of controlling that spark and personality, and it doesn't always come off.
Off your right leg. Find him with your left leg. Stretch up, grow tall ears. Imagine there's someone sitting behind you, drawing your shoulder blades back.
Dressage is the ballet training, athletic training of horses, and like with some people dance more easily than others. You will have horses that at some point in their training you have to decide that their niche in life is somewhere else. With other horses, they have a great natural athletic ability, they enjoy the training, and they seem to grow in personality as the training continues. And those are fairly rare, and if you find one, you hang on to it. horses are great levelers, and just when you think you've cracked it, they'll do something that brings you back down to earth with a large bang.
September is the month before the start of the pheasant shooting season, and a busy and pressured time for downland gamekeepers like David Botting. He and his faithful terriers have thousands of birds to guard and to look after, and he's out and about at all hours and in all weathers to make sure that the pheasants are fit and well and will fly high and true through the winter months.
I've been a gamekeeper really and truly since I was 9 years old, and I was brought up with gamekeepers, and that's all I've ever wanted to do. That's all I've ever done. I've had a few short breaks, had a year off when I first got married to earn some money, because there's no money in gamekeeping. You're looking at a poor man. The main skill is dedication. So, you know, it's 7 days a week for 8 months of the year. And you've got to understand the countryside, wildlife, and everything that goes into it, you know. You've got to be relaxed. You know, all wild sort of creatures can sense it if you're hurried or if there's something not quite right. So if you just go in there and feed them, and you're nice and calm, they respond to it. We were shooting one day on a very bleak hillside. After the first drive, it was very cold and very bleak. And one of the guns said to a tenant farmer shooting with us. And the gun said to the farmer, he said, "I say," he said, "you haven't got much food for your cattle up here, have you?" And the farmer looked at him and said, "Well, no, there isn't a lot," he said. "But look at the view they got." It's fantastic. Countryside, nice people. It's great. It's so peaceful and so undisturbed. You know, and you can stand up here at 4 in the morning and you don't hear anything. Only the silence. Come on. Good girl. Come on.
Everyone in Singleton village knows Percy Farmer and his dog Kim. Percy came to Sussex in 1927 and to the village in 1967, so they've had a while to get used to him. Once he was a groundsman and greenkeeper on the Goodwood golf course. Today he takes things more easily, but still keeps his hand in looking after the outfield on the Singleton cricket ground.
I met the president of the cricket club and I said, "Do you want somebody to look after it?" He said, "Will you take it on?" I said, "Yes," and that's what I did. I love grass. It's in my nature. I've been brought up with it. And in 1948 I went to work for the War Agriculture and I learnt it all there because they took me on courses where we sowed grass different ways, cultivated it different ways, dressed it different ways, cut it different ways, and that's where I got my experience.
One of Percy's passions is playing bowls, which he sometimes practices with a friend in front of the pavilion while he awaits the arrival of the cricketers.
I'm fairly good at bowls. I do play for the Royal British Legion, and I play for Sutton, and I travel around quite a bit. I go to Worthing, Eastbourne, you name it, I go there. The grass on the bowling green is very important. The way it's cut is the main feature, and people that do look after bowling greens knows quite as much about that as what I do. I came to Sussex on April Fool's Day 1927 with my parents, and I've been a fool ever since.
For 100 different reasons, these rolling hills of Sussex have captured people's hearts and imaginations through the ages. Esther Mennell is one of them. There is an incomparable magic in the downs that lie in the middle of the range between east and west. There they seem to turn and shed their woods, like a cloak slipping off their shoulders, and become most truly typical of all that is meant by the South Downs. The colour changes, becomes less green, has a paler tinge, as though a little moonshine has mixed with the light of day.
Over on Channel 4 in a few moments, John Snow presents a detailed bulletin of the latest day's news at 7. Next tonight on Meridian, a chance to glimpse the sandy beaches and tropical waters of the Seychelles in Wish You Were Here.